Well, your stream cut out, and then you cut out too, and I pulled it up on my phone, but your stream was still going. It was so weird.
I mean, it's yeah. Sometimes I go live, and the stream is like, "Oh, you went live like 9 minutes ago or something," or sometimes I go into my dashboard and it says I'm still live from like 4 days ago.
Hey, it's back up.
Yeah, I had to completely shut down OBS. I guess my OBS just imploded. Also, because my OBS should be trying to reconnect, and it should have reconnected already, but the reconnect wasn't working for some reason. I don't know. I went through all of the settings with Mohammed. Enable automatic reconnect. Retry delay of 2 seconds. Maybe I'll increase that a little bit, so it's not too. I don't know. Maybe it just fell over its own feet. Cool. I guess we'll record everything from now on as we should. Where were we? Boost nodes. Yes. Yeah, so they come in pairs. And yeah, some of them are more complicated than others. Some of them are more restrictive. Technically, or typically I should say, classes that have a lot of very useful skill nodes will want to minimize how many boost nodes they're equipping and only start equipping them when they're a decently high level, because, well, you can imagine if a skill has a lot of utility for someone, you know, increasing the base damage of your skills by 2% or by 4% versus adding on a whole new skill that allows you to do a whole bunch of extra stuff, that might not be worth it. But if you're increasing the base damage of your skills by like, I don't know, by like 20%, well, then now it might be worth it, you know? It's also pretty easy.
Yeah. It seemed like, and I'd have to check, like, I'd have to go into a dummy and check the battle log.
Sorry,
But it seems like
you're like chipmunking again.
Hoyoung was
Hang on.
a lot
Let me.
of nodes because a lot of their abilities.
Sorry, hang on. Let me restart my. Let me restart my OBS.
Okay.
Jesus fuck! I don't know what's wrong with the internet today. I mean, it's hilarious, but it's like really fucking annoying too. My OBS is like wasn't reconnecting. I'm still in a call with him, but my OBS wouldn't reconnect for some fucking reason. Hello?
My sound?
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. Sound like you're cosplaying like a character in League of Legends. Can you reconnect to the call?
Hello?
Yeah. Okay. Wait, now you're good. I don't know what's going on with internet.
No, that's on me.
Off the fritz.
But it hasn't happened in a really long time.
All right.
I just have to unplug my mic and plug it back in.
Okay. Is it a cheaper microphone, or is it on its last legs? I don't know what's.
Yeah, it's a cheaper but a stand, or not a stand mic, one of those like weird streamer ones where you clamp it to the side of your desk.
Okay. Yeah.
So.
Okay.
But
Best
again,
session
it
to
hasn't
shut
been
up.
happening in a while. Just let me know if it happens, and I'll immediately.
Yeah. If
plug
I
it
start
back in.
laughing, then you know I'm listening to fucking your rendition of Alvin and the Chipmunks, and then you know.
So, it definitely seems like Hoyoung has a ton of skills that they like to boost.
Yeah,
I'd have
all
to
of them.
go into. I'd have to go into a battle thing to see what the percentage of each is. But
Sure.
it seems so. I look up the perfect ones, and it seems that if I get, there's like 9 skills that I want. So
There's all of them. Yeah.
any combination of the 3 I can use.
Yeah.
So, like, the
essentially,
ones
so every
that
single thing you open could be a trinode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Although there is some priority, so they are listed here by priority. Your I think I guess for bossing the vortex is pretty important, but like the humanity as you will fan, earth, ground shattering, and heaven, iron fan gale, those are definitely the more important ones.
see, that's my first node. I
Yeah.
looked at the perfect nodes, and it didn't have exactly that one, and I'm like, are you sure? Because those are the 3 buttons I pressed the most. That's my first node is that one. Those first 3 abilities in that order.
Mm-hmm.
Or the last 2 are swapped, but that one doesn't matter.
Yeah, that
let's
doesn't matter.
see.
Oh no, yeah.
As long as the first one, I mean, the only way it matters is the first one. I can't have another node that starts with as you will fan.
Exactly, yeah. So that's why you have a little box here, right, where it says like main node, so you can tick it so that you know you don't look for it anymore. Although, you know, when it comes to having a lot of nodes, or even if you only need like 2 or you need 4 or whatever, is you don't want to quote-unquote lock in too early, right? The earlier you lock in and like mentally lock in, like this is the one I have, I'm not looking for that anymore, the more quickly you limit your options for your outs, right? Because there's going to be fewer combinations that will fit with whatever you have, the more you have locked in. If you already have, you know, you need 6 nodes, if you have 5 of them locked in, there's only 2 possible options for that 6th one, right? It's going to have to start with a specific node, and the other 2 are only going to be able to be in 2 configurations.
I've run into that a little bit, as I have a, you know, I'm looking for essentially a perfect node because my, you know, my first 6 skills, I can only have the last 3 skills, you know, and I can't be looking for something that's imperfect, which is a lot harder.
But so like I said before, though, you could temporarily, especially in the beginning of the game, if there's a few skills you use the most, more than anything else, you could boost them 3 times or 4 times, you know? But whether you should do that or not doesn't really depend on whether there is a total amount of boost nodes that you need, but it depends more on how many skill nodes you're eating into at that point.
Okay.
That's the more important thing. Yeah.
I'll have to do a lot more class specific.
Yeah.
But as far as like general skill nodes, what are the ones people run? So like, you know, the decent skills.
Yeah.
Seems that.
Yeah, Sharp Eyes and Speed Infusion are typically the go-tos, and well, Holy Symbol, of course, right? And then Sharp Eyes and Speed Infusion tend to be the one. Most classes need the Speed Infusion to hit their attack speed cap, so that's why that one is high up there. And then Sharp Eyes because it gives 10% crit rate and 8% critical damage, so like, you know, in combination, that's just highly valuable.
Yeah, and so I should right now, and I can start re-rolling this, but again, my unique ability is like 18% crit, and the second I got that, I was like, okay, that's staying. But I'm running into an issue now where if I have all my links on, that overcaps.
Yeah, and it's a good problem to have. And then basically, because that's how all of your knowing like where to push, how far for like balance when it comes to those stats is really hard to do when you like uninitiated and you're just starting out, right? Because I can tell you like, oh wow, your hyperstat is at 7 and your Legion grid is only at a 3 and you have like 4% here. That's clearly out of balance. You'd be like, that's not clear to me, right? But once you start overcapping, now you can have a better idea of what you do, because now it's like, now you have options and now you can start weighing those options. So what are your options when you're overcapping on critical rate? Either you can lower your hyperstat, right, which gives you a certain amount of points, which maybe you can't use, maybe you can use, but you have an idea there. Maybe you can get like 3% damage out of that, you know, as an example. What is your other option? Moving away a link skill. What link skill would come into place? Maybe one that gives you 8% damage. Well, now it's easy. Now you're comparing 3% damage and 8% damage, so that's an easy fix. So as you're working more with like overcapping and switching things out, you'll get a way better understanding of like where can you get how much. Once your Legion grid gets bigger, that becomes the third player in the game between hyperstat, link skills, and then your Legion grid, because now you have access to those same stats, to critical rate, to critical damage, to ID, to boss damage, to buff duration as well to an extent, which becomes useful for Hoyoung.
Yeah.
Which is a less intuitive one, but yeah.
Well, I knew that one from minute 1 because I'd press butterfly and then I'd be like, man, I have to generate so much more to put down my scroll star, to get my IED skill, and then by the time I finally get enough for butterfly again, it's already run out, you know. And
I believe it's mainly for the vortex, right? That the vortex stays longer as well. But yeah, it's just overall management of your stuff becomes easier.
So I have been wondering about that. Some things are considered summons with buffs, but some things they're...
Yeah.
I mean, do summons work with both buff duration and summon duration, or only one or the other?
Yeah, that's a great question. These are things I would just find a Hoyoung for and ask them specifically. But when I see that buff duration is something that people want in the inner ability and eventually in the Legion, especially once you start approaching like 8k Legion, that to me talks about ease of managing your resources. So like your what is it called, talisman energy and your scroll energy. And I had always assumed that it had something to do with the vortex, because it's one or the other, right? Either it's a summon, you know, and then like the Corsair Legion works on it, and your own Hoyoung passive works on it, right? The passive beginner skill you have, or it's a summon, or it's a buff, and then but I believe it shows up as a buff on the top right, but then so do summons. So it's that's a great question, but that would be like if I would probably join like the Hoyoung Discord or ask some people in chat who I know play Hoyoung and ask them, because they've probably struggled with that same question somewhere along the road, so they'll probably remember that answer. That one is too specific for me. I can't tell you exactly like which skills are which of those two categories, and therefore what would work on it. I always thought a summon had to specifically say in the description of the skill that it is that it summons. I thought, but you know, it's MapleStory, so there's probably exceptions. It's never.
Yeah, because the clone says, "Oh wait, no, never mind. I'm looking for the flame." The flame says conjures, but then in the skill description it says flame summon duration.
Yeah.
And then for the scroll star vortex, the skill says summons a powerful vortex, and then the description says creates a vortex. So
yeah, and it's like
very inconsistent.
I understand that they don't want to use the same words over and over, but when it comes to, it's almost like a law book, you know? Like it's very important which word you're using, because that implies whether or not other matters apply to it or not. Like it's incredibly important to be repetitive there in your words and not just try to be, you know, floaty and like you're writing a fucking novel. It needs to be exact, but yeah.
Yeah, consistency so that the player can more easily understand what affects what and where.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to test though, right? You can just apply a Legion buff, press the button and see if it's exactly the same amount of seconds or not.
Yeah.
And that's how some people, of course, you know, figure it out in the beginning, but there's probably like a list somewhere where somebody has all the things done, so you could just copy and work from there.
Okay. And then, you know, just so that we make sure we don't go over, how long has it been?
Yeah, that's a good question. At least my music has kept playing. We're just coming up on the hour now.
Okay, then if you'd like, I just want to get a little bit of account, I guess, progression.
Yep.
So that I know, like, what to do next. My goals are, the biggest thing is eventually get that 220, get the Abso weapon, and then start learning CRA.
Mm-hmm.
Because those are very annoying boss fights.
Yeah,
you know, like I said, this is a numbers go up game for me, so it's you know, I'm not. I raid in Final Fantasy and I'm not terrible at it, but in this game, oh my god.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of other games that like market themselves as being 3D are really just 2D, you know? Like Final Fantasy is basically 2D, but it's just like in a plane rather than vertically, right?
Yeah, there's no...
But you have a 3D view.
The Z-axis doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And just like in MapleStory, like in MapleStory the Z-axis doesn't matter, right? But in like Final Fantasy the Y-axis really doesn't matter, right? It's just X and Z basically.
Yeah.
But it's still, your viewpoint is very different. So like when it comes to layering things, when it comes to effects, when it comes to skill visibility, when it comes to damage skins and everything, that aspect is much more important so that you can see what's going on with the boss. Even audio, you know, playing some bosses with audio on, with sound effects on, can actually help you quite a bit on just to get your input, your visual input, auditory input from somewhere to make sure that you know what's going on and that you can respond in time to obstacles, to bosses and such.
Yeah, I did hear Von Bon makes a sound when he does his dive or whatever, jump.
Yeah, his jump. And Vellum has a different sound when he pops up. If he's gonna fireball, he like roars before that. And if he is not gonna fireball, he doesn't roar apparently. Yeah.
I've just been going to the opposite side of him, that he pops up just to be sure that he's not gonna fireball me.
Yeah, I usually go by how quickly a tail pops up. If he pops up like fully erect, and there's a tail that pops up pretty much immediately, then he's not shooting fireballs. If there's a little bit of a pause before there's a tail and I see nothing, I assume that he's fireballing. And that's correct like 99% of the time. It can be wrong because sometimes he can have done a skill right before, and then sometimes the tail pops up from the previous summon, and it looks like it's an instant summon from his popping up. So I think I'm safe, but then it's actually, because it's the one from the previous one, there was no tail, so he's actually fireballing. But then it just comes down to experience and, using your iframe for those kind of scenarios. And you have a very repeatable iframe, so, that's...
Do I?
Yeah, pretty much so. What's it called?
Which one?
God, is it like Spirit of Shangri-La or something like that? What is it called? It's like a big painting where you hop around in.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's a 200-second cooldown, but it's 20 seconds when I hold it down. So I use it to cheese Arcarium. I burst him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but the cooldown depends on how long you hold it down. If you hold it down for like half a second to immune whatever hit it is, so the better you get with it, the more you can use it.
Oh my god! I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, if you hold it down for the full duration, then you can use it like once per boss fight. But if you just tap it, because you know exactly what will kill you, you know exactly how long the hitboxes are, right? As you get more experience, you'll be able to use it like 10 to 15 times per boss fight. And it's been nerfed a lot over time, and it's still probably one of the best iframes in the entire game, as it is.
Yeah, I had heard about the nerf, and I was like, I'm pretty dumb. I did not. I need to move that to a more accessible button.
Yeah. That's things you learn, because it's your escape, your escape button. And then sometimes you don't really need them for a while, and then sometimes it's like, okay, this boss fight, it gets really spooky. Like, be close to me. Yeah.
Hoyoung just has so many buttons. My God.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I play it macro, which means I can't go to attack speed 0, because if I do, the macro breaks. It's unfair because for Pathfinder they patched it because the macro for Pathfinder broke in GMS, I was told.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a long time ago.
They had to patch it. But Hoyoung's doesn't work, so you either have to do it manually at attack speed 0 or you have to not go to attack speed 0.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you want to be at attack speed 0 eventually, but you don't. Yeah, if it's for mobbing and it's a little bit slower, but it's still good enough, and it makes it so that you can get through all the stuff that you want to get through, then it's fine. But for bossing and optimization, in general, you want to get to that attack speed 0 just because it makes all of your animations just a little bit faster, and it helps you get out of the way, out of situations that could otherwise kill you, without it costing you an iframe. You want to really keep your iframe for those oh fuck moments, and not just out of convenience. Even though as a Hoyoung, you can definitely do that more than a lot of other classes can. But it's still not ideal, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've been feeling that pain on the Ice Lightning where my iframe is my bind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Luminous is the same thing. That's an unfortunate. And Cadena had the same thing, but they switched it out on the Cadena, so that's good.
So to slingshot it to gear.
Well, you're talking about account progression. Are you talking about the Absolab weapons?
Oh, yeah. So account progression.
Mm-hmm.
My next big thing is I'm going to get all archers to 120. Sure. I got marksman to 140 because it's not too far away.
Mm-hmm.
But 120 for link skills for now, because the 120 to, even 140 or to 200, for me, it starts slowing down a lot. My kill times get reduced a lot because I don't have a whole bunch of account-wide power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not yet, but that'll start coming. Once you hit 2K, 3K, then you'll really start, feeling it coming up.
I think the two biggest after that, I wanted to do Explorer Mage because it feels like it does so much. I think it's 9% IED, 9% damage when you stack it, which you pretty much do instantly.
Yeah, on bosses, right? On mobbing, it's not very useful at all. But for bosses, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but I wanted to probably do... So when I do Beast Tamer, I think I'm going to bunker down for the long haul and go to 210 because I feel like it gets good there. But also the 200 Beast Tamer is what 5% IED, which is not terribly a lot, but it's free.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the term you're looking for there is opportunity cost, basically, right? So that's what I used in the IED grid here as well. Is if something has a very low opportunity cost, you just always want to get it, because it's not going at the expense of anything else. So there, it's super valuable. As soon as it starts interfering, where you have to make choices to get A, B, or C, then those are the more difficult choices. So if you make sure that you cap out on all of those low opportunity cost sources, you'll have fewer of those harder decisions to make, and the ones that you have to make will become more obvious as a result.
Yeah, so I want to do probably Beast Tamer and Zero. Zero's not bad, but I don't think I really should go to 200 on it, because I'll get there eventually. It's just more, again, with opportunity costs and time costs, what's going to help me right now get to CRA leveling faster, because my leveling slowed down on these characters too, because I can't one shot in Yum Yum, or in I'm not even there yet, in Choo Choo.
Yeah, then in the beginning it's just it's tricky because there's so many sources that will come together, and I always have to talk to my mom about this, because she would always be like, well, it really sucks like in the beginning of the game to be training and get like no nodes, because that's when you need them the most. And then when you are kind of done with your nodes, then you can make a lot of them, but then you don't really need them anymore. And I was trying to explain, I understand that, but to one end, they love that, because now you have a lot of nodes. Well, now it's a good opportunity to play another character, and now they can have you by the balls, right? Because now you're now you're double infested. But the other thing is, if they give you an insane rate from the get-go, that takes away a lot of the value of number go up, and a lot of takes away the value of necessity of upgrading your stuff, because let's say that your base node drop rate is 20, and you can get it from 20 to 30 by maxing out your drop rate. That doesn't feel like it's worth all your time. But if you start with 1 or 2 and you can get it all the way up to 60, well, now it feels like it's super valuable to be working on upgrading your stuff, right? So it's kind of like a psychological trick, but it works. It's effective for how it works.
Yeah, I think my biggest issue with nodes is that I just don't have the slots, because I'm not a high enough level.
Yeah.
I have so many different, I want to increase the character and account power so that I can more easily get the level ups. And, I'm just kind of doing, whatever I feel like I'm enjoying at the time, rather than forcing myself. If it's unoptimal, it's unoptimal. I'd rather be unoptimal and be happy than,
exactly.
Hate myself doing, nobody, to borrow from RuneScape, which I don't even play, nobody wants to, or very few people want a 2-tick granite grind for 40 hours. Some people do, but I wouldn't be the one doing that. Killing my hands, hating myself just so that I could get a little more efficiency.
Yeah, there's the limit. Yeah, there's a limit for everyone, and you just have to know yourself a little bit on how far you're gonna go and how much stake you do put in this game. Like you say, initially this game is just something to kill time in between other stuff that just has longer waiting times. There's probably people who just started playing MapleStory and farming on Akana just because they were waiting to in queue for League, and then they were able to make a lot of upgrades, and now they actually have a character that could do a whole bunch of stuff. But then as soon as that Kishin is gone and you have to dedicate 2 hours to sit there for totems, they're like, well, fuck, now I can't dedicate that time anymore, So
yeah,
whatever fits into your schedule. But when you're talking about general account progress and just the order to do things in, my Legion and Lynx grid, this big one, you've probably seen it pop up a few times. This is just always my go-to for advice, basically. So a lot of the ones that you mentioned are on the top of the list, so that's good.
Yep, I've been following that.
Yeah.
And again, in the order that I don't want to do Zero right now, so I've just saved that one for later. And my Arn and Evan are only 70, which I want to get them to at least 120, but I hate Evan.
Yeah, it wasn't. It's for a lot of people, it's not their favorite. It's just a certain type of playstyle that just it'll always mesh with fewer. Yeah, sub 50% people will like it. That's how it works.
And I think it's an interesting concept, but
yeah, that sounds a whole lot like I don't fucking like it. Like you have a great personality, but
that's
what you're saying.
The concepts behind the job mesh well to me. It's like
the lore, right? Like you have your dragon and you're fighting with the
0.5. You know, it's because they have to do it so much that I call it the dragon install. I don't know why, but when you install your dragon, you know, you do a skill and then you give it an element. It has like what, a 6-second cooldown and a 3-second duration. If that was longer, I would enjoy it more. But like, it doesn't feel good to install a big skill and then 3 seconds later, like if I run around essence sprinkling, it's gonna feel bad because my dragon should be doing most of the work. But then I just have to go do the dragon again in 3 seconds, and I have to do a different skill.
Yeah, the idea is that you use like use the base skill, because if you use the base skill and then immediately use the fusion skill, you'll have like the short effect and a long cooldown. But the base skill typically lasts a little bit longer. So the idea is that you use the base skill and then you use your regular skill like once or twice in between, and then right before the base skill expires, then you fuse it, and then you use the regular skill again, like the magic barrage, right? You use that a few more times, and then when the skill ends, you'll be very close again to the base skill being activatable. But you kind of want to fill up the time with extra magic barrages so that it's more of a fluid combination. But there's also a lot of ways of playing the character. Like some people like training on certain maps over others, and they will be unironically just getting completely different boost node combinations just because the map fits different skills better, and they'll want to train with different styles. But I think that's a cool thing, that there is that flexibility within characters, because we have a history in MapleStory definitely of like, oh, you play this character, okay, you need to get these equips, you need to level those things up, and then you need to kill the boss in that way, and then you're done. You know, like there's no, all of the variation of classes is all the way up front. Like there's 49 classes, that's where all your choice is, and then once you've chosen, you're like locked in for the rest of the ride. And I like the fact that that's not necessarily the fact with everyone. And fifth job is a great way of not just being like, oh, you know, well, way in the past we had like level skill level guides, right? Like level this skill first and that one, that whole shit. I'm glad we're over that. But now for fifth job, we basically still have that, but you have the ability to develop kind of like your own play style and how you want to go through the game with that. So I like that aspect is kind of still in there.
Yeah, I definitely see it, and I definitely agree. You know, again, building on all the systems made it a hot mess, but it made it a very beautiful hot mess, you know, with all these systems layered on top of each other and reworked over the years. And, you know, even just like equip gear progression, I guess, is like, well, there's no real one right answer to how I make myself stronger gear wise. You know, there's
always options, and there's sometimes it's obvious and sometimes they're pretty close. And the thing is that I think this is general like MMO player thing, but a lot of people get like anxious if there isn't like a general obvious answer. Whereas for me, I work completely the opposite way. If there is like a general obvious answer, I just feel fucked because I feel railroaded. Kind of like the playstyle with Evan. Like you have to do it this way to optimize your damage, and then if you don't, you're suboptimal, and then you have to sacrifice your fun. And if you don't like this, then you're just shit out of luck. But I like for equips, if a bunch of options are really close, that's really fun for me, because that means I could take whatever and it's all good. And so I don't have to worry about what I'm getting. But it's the same news, but the complete opposite reaction, you know? Because then people get more anxious, like, oh, well, then I need to exactly know, like, I need to dive into the numbers and know what is, like, 0.01% final damage better so I can chase that. And for me, just like, oh, it's relatively the same? Cool. I can just take whatever and not have to worry about it. Because there's already so much to worry. So if you take something off my plate, thank God.
For my upgrading gear-wise, it's generally been, you know, if something has a good flame and okay potentials, I keep it, and it's like that can... You know, that has that has more room to be replaced later, whereas something that's not great or something. But I'm kind of hitting that wall because there's so many upgrade system, flames, cubes, you know, and
Potential,
they all occupy
Star Force,
yeah, they all occupy the same opportunity cost of you need mesos to do it.
Yep.
And I guess I'm not looking for the best one, but I'm kind of looking.
Well, at any given time, you're looking for the most efficient one, right? The best bang for your buck, basically.
Yeah.
Well, that's the main reason why I made the progression grid, because it was like, well, okay, we can't look at damage range, right? Damage range is just silly to look at. Well, but what else do we look at? You know, because like there's got to be something that indicates like how well you're doing. But on top of how well you're doing, there must be also something that indicates like you're on the right track. You are where you're kind of supposed to be, where the game expects you to be, and where the opportunity cost lies within your account. And that's what the progression grid does. It looks at, you know, taking into account progression grid, accessibility, all of that stuff. It looks at how far do you push individual items and how far do you go in individual ways of making your whole account stronger that does not interfere too much in time and money invested into other sources.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been sort of following it, the thing you have pulled up. But I'm also, you know, again, everybody's different, and so like I'd consider myself end of early, so I'm in the breakthrough stage of end of early to beginning of mid. You know, like my main stats around that level, my crit's higher, but my, you know, whatever, it's all just a little bit different, but I'm basing it off of the goals.
Yeah, your level, your stat, your legion, like it's all. It seems very balanced, because I look at your account and I don't see anything that's way out of whack. So that's already a good sign. That means that you're pretty gradually getting everything up. One thing I do definitely want to mention though, because I scrolled a few of the past times, and we're gonna get comments on a YouTube video if I don't say it. But for your hyperstats, the luck in the hyperstats is not multiplied by your percentages, so it's not as efficient as you might think that it is. So if you are getting to that 100% crit rate, you definitely want to have those stats be in critical damage instead for a number to go up way more than having it in luck.
I had put it in there initially because during the earlier levels, it was getting to the point where, I mean, some of them are clearly good and some of them are clearly, why the hell would you ever... Okay, I could see a reason for it, but why would you ever put it into Demon Force, Time Force, whatever PP is, and Mana?
Yeah, you don't have that as a Hoyoung. But some classes have that, like Zero has it. It comes down to... basically, they have that instead of just MP, so they can slam potions. So they might have to... they work off a certain bar that has a certain amount of regeneration, and just giving yourself a little bit more breathing room there is... yeah,
so that's what I was thinking, is you might level it to hit certain breakpoints where maybe you can press
like 5 or something, now. Yeah. 5 is pretty cheap, yeah.
But, so I had initially put it into luck because it was getting to the point. So the level from, like, 1 to 4, you need, like...
1, 2, 4, 8.
Points or something.
Yeah, it's 1, 2, 4, 8, 10, and then 15, 20, 25, etc., etc. Up to 50, so, and then it's like 65, 80, 100, like, then it goes crazy past 10.
Yeah, so I was just kind of... What I would do is I'd put it in what I thought was good. I was just having fun with it. You know, crit rate, because I was told... I don't know by who, but, you know, until you get 100% crit rate, you don't really want to be pumping crit damage too much, because I mean, it's essentially multiplicative in the opposite way, where if you're not at 100% crit rate, your crit damage gets noticeably worse.
Yeah, you're multiplying both, so you're multiplying your crit damage by your crit rate, but if it's sub 100, you're lowering it, essentially, yeah. It's not fully efficient. But now that you hit that 100% crit, and now you want that critical damage to be pumped, because if you look at your critical damage in the game, right, your base critical damage is from 30 to 50%, and you're adding 40%. So your critical hits now do between 70 to 90% extra final damage. So if you would increase that with like level 8 in critical damage, you get to, what is it? It's like 1%, right? So it's like up to, fuck my brain. I don't even know how high it goes exactly. Is it 5 and then 1? Is it 1 all the way? So it's just 8%? I don't even know. But then it's on top of like 70 to 90. It's like 7% on top of that. That's really high, right? Also, I think the game is imploding at this point. Yeah, okay.
I was going to say I just got kicked out.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, now that I have... I mean, the biggest one I think is Phantom for sure. That's just like 15% for maybe a couple hours work. It's just so ridiculously good. And then the archers now, what I have now, with my inner ability of 18% will get me to 100, so I can start taking that out of.
Yeah, this might be one of those things that I mentioned before, not to try to zoom in too much into min-maxing within your Hoyoung, but look at it more like a count approach, because that's what this is built up for, right? This is built up for a count approach, and it might be something that you don't necessarily need on your main character as much, but you will need it on all the other characters that you need to level, and you will need to level all of those characters to min-max on your character. So it'll circle back, but you're like investing a little bit of time in what seems like something that your main character might not really need, but it'll come back in a big way once. It's usually once you're like in between 2k and 3k Legion. That's like whenever you make a new character, you can see like, oh, this character is just like so much stronger than the last one. Like the skills aren't even better, but just everything keeps one-shotting, and I could just get to level 100 so fast. At that point, sometimes people make like 2 level 100s in a day just to pump out those Legion levels and get those levels going.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I'm doing the biggest, getting that crit rate high. Because if I can make a new character and start with a high crit rate, and as you were saying, so like my Ice Lightning is just barely hitting 100%, and not in a good way, because Chain Lightning has 25 added onto it, but nothing else has that 25 added onto it.
Yeah.
So if I can 100% crit with Chain Lightning, cool, but not cool if I can't do it with my big burst skills, with my...
Oh, definitely, yeah.
But
yeah, that's in general why whenever you see anywhere like crit rate added to a certain skill, that's always something we avoid, right?
Yeah,
because you want to be 100 on everything, so it's a lost point eventually. It might be okay in the beginning, right? Because Chain Lightning is highly used, so if you can make sure that your Chain Lightning is working properly, then that's cool. But but eventually, you always roll out of those.
Yep. So that's why I'm doing, even though my Hoyoung can hit 100%, I still want to do Beast Tamer. I want to hold off onto Night Lord. I don't know why. It just feels like a class that would be fun to do when I'm stronger. But the Pathfinder's so easy and so fun, and Bowmaster I think is a little bit better. And then Marksman's just the double threat of both the Link skill and the Legion.
Yeah, it gets so much crit early on. It's almost like a Phantom in terms of the crit that it gives you access to.
Yep. And then Beast Tamer gives crit rate and IED. And
you could see here.
Damage too? Damage to bosses, that's what it is.
Boss damage. So IED is the green one, right? So that's the Legion buff.
Legion effect.
And the white is crit rate and boss damage and HP and MP percentage,
It's so ridiculous.
The individual percentages are not super high, but if you add them all up, it's quite a nice amount.
Yeah. The again, because you can use all three of them, it won't cost. Well, okay, later on, at least for the point my account is in, but later on, you might have to remove the Link skill. But
for mobbing, for example, right? Like for mobbing, it'll basically become like a stacked archer, and at that point, that's pretty low value because just 10% for a crit for like a whole Link skill slot, that might be a little bit too much. But at that point, whether it's too much or not, that will become apparent because you're either overcapping or because you have other sources that will clearly be like, hey, I could just move like 2 pieces of my Legion grid, from like boss damage or IED into crit rate because I'm mobbing, and now I have like 8% critical rate extra. I can easily get rid of a Link skill and get extra damage. Boom, like this is, then it just becomes super obvious. But as you're still in the build-up phase, it can be a little bit wild to be. You can't really say how it's going to be once you have like 2,000 more Legion. But once you do have 2,000 more Legion, as long as you're kind of, involved in the process, right? And you're not just like moving your pieces around like every 20 levels, because some people do that. And then you have to constantly like relearn what all your sources actually are. But as long as you're kind of keeping an eye on them and you're double checking on, do I not have like a level 12 Link skill, level 12 hyperstat next to like a level 3, that are both relevant? That's usually never a good idea. If you have like an 8 and a 9 or an 8 and a 10 next to each other, or a 7 and a 6, that's typically fine. But if you got like a 3 and a 12, and one is like on IED and the other one is on critical damage, usually there's room to move those around a little bit. Because they are kind of internally balanced to be roughly the same value, roughly.
Yeah, the Legion skills or the pieces that they go on.
The Legion skill. So that you mean the member bonus? Well,
yeah,
basically everything. Basically all of those
was,
numbers, you know? Because if anything was wildly out of balance, then that would just be like brain dead, always capped, and then everything else would become the problem. So they are made internally, like why does the IED go up to 40%? Why does the boss damage go up to 40 and the critical damage only goes up to 20? Well, because critical damage has fewer total sources. So it is more valuable to get crit damage in general because of lack of access than boss damage percentage is. So that's why you can go up to 40 on boss, because there are those diminishing returns, but you can only go up to 20 in critical damage in the grid, you know? But when you look at, for example, high levels of... so IED and boss damage, for example, like if you look for boss souls, if you have a Magnificent Soul, critical rate will go up to... Sorry, did I say IED? So I meant critical rate and boss damage. Critical rate will go up to 12%, but the boss damage will only go up to 7%. So that's almost double for critical rate. But if you look in your Legion grid, 1% is 1 for both of them. So that means that in a Legion grid, if you get the critical rate soul, you'd much rather have that than the boss damage one if you have a big enough Legion that can cushion that, because now you can just move some Legion pieces around and you've essentially gotten 12 instead of 7.
Yeah. Yep. And then so for my Legion now, would you recommend that? Kind of to end it off, I think we're reaching the end of the time, but essentially I put everything into one stat and then I changed the inner stats.
Yep. Stat and attack or magic attack, yeah, and just change your stat to based on whatever character you are. But yeah, you'll basically just have like, you know, one little rectangle or square, whatever is it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Is it 5 by 6? Yeah, 5 by 6 rectangle. That's just like filled up as much as possible. But it's not even.
Should I move it?
Nah, it's not that important.
Should I move it to the corners with where the IED's gonna be?
So basically, what'll happen is once you get to 2K, you don't really have to move around too much, because you'll get one extra square, and like I said, like it's 6 blocks, right? So even for critical damage, it'd be like 3% if you fill all of it. And you're going to be disproportionately spending a lot of blocks just getting to the sides versus how much you're going to get from them. So I would say until 3K, there's not really that big of a deal of moving away from the middle. But once you get to 3K, you get those extra 5 characters in, and those will enable you to connect the sides and really start working. Because even on IED, right, we talked about the smaller sources and the bigger sources in the beginning. If you can get to IED in the beginning, you can only get one source of 6% there, which which isn't all that exciting. But if you can get 6 plus 7, if you can get 13%, well, now we're cooking with gas, right? Now you're actually this is a significant line, and this will actually help me. So I would say 3K is like a good point, because make sure you have enough coins to slam all those levels, get all those extra characters in. Those characters will be at least 3 squares and not 2 squares, and now you can start covering some area.
Yep. That's sort of my goal. I think the next big break point is hitting that 3K, and then after that is 6K, and then after that is the slow crawl towards 8K.
Yeah, essentially. But the slow crawl to 8K will be made a lot easier with the August 31st update, because 2 extra characters are going to count for your Legion level, so it's going to be 42 characters instead of 40.
Yeah.
So that last jump is going to be significantly easier. 7.7 to 8K is just like 2 level 150s extra, so that'll be a whole lot simpler than making a bunch of extra 200s, yeah.
Man, all those people playing right now got rolled back. That's why you should do a Scardor
progression session instead. Yeah, just get coached.
Yeah, so that you're not playing actively. You're doing the session instead. Everyone else gets rolled back. Alrighty. I mean, it's an endless questions game, but I feel okay with my goals. It's really, again, working on everything. Hoyoung is my main, so that means I will be progressing on it harder than the others, but I do the others, at least right now, because Ice Lightning needs to be 220 to get the weapon.
Yep.
My Hoyoung is at 7K main stat, but my Ice Lightning's at like 5K. So, just from doing daily bosses and using whatever cubes drops on it.
Yeah, and you get free items and everything from the event, so that'll make it able to get to 220. Just some totems here and there, and you'll be fine.
My biggest Thing is, I don't... Buying red cubes feels like the biggest blow to my wallet I've ever had in my life, so I haven't been red cubing anything yet.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, I mean that's when you get to legendary, you reroll within legendary basically, or like YOLOing to try to get to legendary. You don't want to get to a tier unless you have the money to support going for good potential within that tier. So
because then you get the tier, you ruined it, and now you can't re-roll it.
Yeah, and the re-rolls are always more expensive, right? So you don't want to use Master Craftsman's on something that you want to be able to re-roll with occults, because if it goes to unique, now you fucked yourself. Now you're stuck on rolling 7.5 mils. Same with if it goes to legendary. It feels good, like wow, we went to legendary, but now you have to spend 12 mil per re-roll, and if you can't support that, it's not a good idea to put yourself in that position.
Oh, is legendary black cubes only? Reds can get it to legendary, but blacks are the only one that can re-roll it?
No, red, black, and so if a cube can re-roll in a tier, it can get you to the tier.
Okay, Meister you can buy in the shop, that's right, for like 7k each.
Wait,
why have I...
No, Master Craftsman you can buy.
The Master Craftsman.
Like black and gold one? Yeah. But it kind of looks like the black cubes are kind of similar. And the Meisters are the purple ones. Those drop from the bosses.
Are they functionally the same? Do they go up to unique?
Yeah, so like occult cubes can re-roll up to within unique, so they can tier up to unique, and then Master Craftsman up to up to epic, my bad, and then Master Craftsman one extra step up to unique, so they can tier up to unique and re-roll within unique, and then red and Meister are like very similar, so the red and the purple ones, that they can tier up to legendary and re-roll within legendary, and then black cubes is a little different with they have higher tiers of tiering up, higher rates of tiering up, and also if you re-roll you can always keep the previous result instead of always just getting the new roll.
The new one, yeah.
But that's why you pay extra.
I saw that, yeah. Which is ridiculous.
And they've got higher chance also of rolling prime lines. So if you want to go for double primes, you know, if you have making that investment, then black cubes will be more efficient than the other ones.
Okay.
So 2 legendary lines on a legendary equip, or 2 unique on a unique equip, something like that.
Yeah. Okay. Yep, alrighty. I want to let you have time to do your bosses and the other things, so
yep.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Whatever I just said, you're very welcome. That's what I said. Slurring.
Yeah, I'll still be in chat watching while I pop a totem on my Ice Lightning.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like you said, there's probably a million more questions that'll pop up, but yeah, commands, and if you need any clarification, just let me know.
Yep. Thank you so much.
Okay. Good luck.
Have a good one.
Yep. Thank you. Bye. Right, as we say goodbye to Alvin and his voice changer. Yeah, so this will probably be part 2 of the upload, so hopefully that was all helpful for you guys, specifically people who are starting out and pretty new to the game. If you want one of these sessions as well, make sure you leave a comment on the YouTube video, and I will be able to draw 2 of you per month for free turns. I'll be drawing the winners as well this month for last month, so keep an eye out on your Discord if you left comments last month. And if you don't want to wait, check the description of the video and you can see where you can go and what you need to do to be able to plan one of these sessions with me. If you need any of the resources, check out my Twitch stream. And other than that, I thank you for watching, and I'll either see you live during the stream, where I stream every day on Twitch, or I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.